Working with local talent and encouraging budding writers is one of the aims of Portsmouth Book Fest. And here to kick things off, as we take a long look at what the festival has to offer, is local author Rick Haynes, who also will hopefully enlighten us on how to write a drabble, and of course, what one is. Rick, thank you very much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, Portsmouth Book Fest, you're the first of our guests this week. Tell us what you're most excited about.
I think I'm most excited that the way that the Book Fest has been handled, the operation behind the scenes is absolutely fantastic. And with so much going on virtually every single day, you can honestly say there's something for everybody in the Book Fest.
And what is it you're doing?
I'm lucky enough to be included in two different areas. The first is a Drabble workshop, and I believe that you want to know what a Drabble is.
Yes, please enlighten us, come on.
Well, a Drabble is a self-contained story of exactly 100 words. It can't be one letter more or one letter less. It has to be exactly 100 words, excluding the title. Now, if you think about it, a Drabble is pretty hard to write because, as it's a self-contained story, you've got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the ending has got to be the killer line. You've got to tie everything up. But when you've done it, it looks great.
And what are the topics? What do you cover? Can you do anything?
You can do literally anything. From anything that you like doing, and that's the way you should write, is write about what you know best or you love best. If you put it down in a Drabble, you think, that's pretty good. But a Drabble also gives you a huge advantage later, because when people say start small in anything, in writing, it's probably very appropriate indeed. Because if you dive in and try a novel straight away, you're going to make a bit of a pig's ear of it normally, unless you're very lucky. But a Drabble really concentrates the mind because you've got to cut out all the superfluous words. And everybody knows that when you write something, it's usually far too long, and you think, oh, what can I cut out? Well, having the experience of Drabble writing behind you, it makes that so much easier.
You must be constantly counting your words then.
Well, I use a computer, so the word count comes up.
That's revolutionised the Drabble game, really.
Well, it was dying out at one stage, and a few years ago somebody resurrected them, and I was lucky to get in at the beginning, if you like. And I've been writing them ever since, apart from my other novels.
But that's just one part of what you do.
Yep.
As you mentioned, your novels, what we have here in front of us. Talk us through what we've got on the table.
Well, the two of the books, these two here, are basically medieval fantasy, which has been my passion for a long, long time. Obviously, Tolkien was somebody who I admired greatly, but also, sadly gone now, is David Gemmell, which was known as probably the finest British fantasy author ever. They certainly inspired me, and that's what I wanted to write. It took a long time to get the first one, Evil Never Dies Down, on paper, but it was so enjoyable. And when I got that book in my hands, a physical book, I was so proud of what I'd achieved.
Because you've only become a writer quite recently, haven't you?
Correct, yeah. Only writing since 2014, but 2015 really a lot, if you like.
And if someone likes the sound of your fantasy novels, which one would they pick up first?
I think that depends on the reader, to be perfectly honest. I would say, because I've got a series, these are the Maxilla series, to start at the beginning, although these are standalone novels, so you can read them individually. It's one of the cheeky things that I didn't like when I was a real reader, or a prolific reader, shall we say, that you got to the end of a book and there was no end. And I thought that was a bit cheeky. So I was determined not to do that.
Brilliant. And this week at Bookfest, when can people catch you?
This week, I'm not going to be at Bookfest because I've got so much to do. I've got the Drabble workshop coming up on the 20th of February, which is in Portsmouth Central Library between 7 and 9 o'clock. So if anybody is listening and wants to come along to see how to write a Drabble, and I will encourage you to write one while you're there and have some fun, then please come along at that event.
Brilliant.
which is fantastic.
Just a reminder, Bookfest does start this week, but of course Vic will be joining it the week after. Thank you very much for coming in today.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much.